Another way to solve linear equations is by graphing. It's actually a way to solve any type of equation. A couple of definitions you need to be aware of, though, is that the solution of an equation is called a root with a T. You can find the root of an equation by examining the graph in its related function f of x. The related function is found by solving the equation for 0 and then replacing 0 with f of x. Values of x for f of x equals 0 are called zeros of the function. The zero of the function is the x-intercept of the graph. So here's the really, really important part. The solution and the root of a linear equation are the same as the zeros and the x-intercept of a related function. There's going to be about 4 different words that all mean the same thing. In algebra so far, when you've asked to find the solution, you're solving for x. So the solution the root, the zero, and the x-intercepts. They are all the same thing. They are all the same. So if the question is to find the solution of an equation, or if the question says find the root, or the question says find the zero, or the question says find the x-intercept, you're actually going to do the exact same thing. You are basically solving the equation for x, or whatever the missing variable is, and finding the answer. Part of your tests this way going forward will be to understand what these words mean. The directions might say find the root. If the direction says find the root, that means you're just solving the equation for x. Don't come to me and say, hey, Mr. Corder, I don't understand what root means. That's going to be part of the test, is that you know what the word root means and that you know what the word zero means in regards to equations, that you are trying to solve the equation for the variable in question. So remember, solutions, roots, zeros, x-intercepts are all the same thing. You're solving the equation for whatever variable. So as I said, one of the ways you can solve an equation is by graphing. So solve 1/2 x minus 11 equals -8 by graphing. So if we are solving this equation by graphing, that means we need to get 0 on one side of the equation. So we're not solving for, you could solve this for x and get the answer. I do understand that, but we want to practice solving this by graphing. So that means we want to set it equal to 0. So to set this equal to 0, we are going to add 8 to both sides. So you get 1/2 x, -11 plus 8 is -3, and that will equal 0. So again, I do understand that you've probably been used to solving for x by moving the 11 to the other side, but now since we're trying to solve it by graphing, we want to set it equal to 0. And also moving forward, you're going to want to embrace setting things equal to 0, because 0 is an easy number to work with, and a lot of the more complex graphs and equations that we're going to get in the future should be set equal to 0. So what we're actually going to be graphing is this line right here. 1/2 x minus 3. So to graph that, we will place a point on -3, because it's already in slope-intercept form now. And from that point, we're going to go up 1 and to the right 2, up 1 to the right 2 as many times as we feel like. And then we're going to draw a straight line. So when I draw a straight line through those, it's going to be about right through there, through all those points. So the solution of the equation is, remember, the solution is found by looking at the x-intercept. And notice it crosses the x-axis at 6. So we are looking at the x-intercept, and the x-intercept is 6. That's actually the solution of the equation. The solution of the equation is 6. We can figure that out by plugging that into the original problem. If we did 1/2 times 6, minus 11, does that really equal negative 8? 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 minus 11, does that really equal negative 8? It sure does. 3 minus 11 is negative 8. So you can see how you can solve an equation by graphing, by looking to see where it crosses the x-axis, and it does check out, it does work. Here's another example. Graph the related function of 2x minus 5y equals negative 11. Use the graph to solve the equation. So we are going to solve this by setting it equal to 0. So let me rewrite the equation. So we got 2x minus 5y equals, or excuse me, minus 5 equals negative 11. And then we're going to add that 11 to both sides. And that's going to give us 2x plus 6 equals 0. And when we solve that, or excuse me, when we graph that, we are going to place a point on the x-axis or the y-axis at 6. And then from that point, we will go up 2 and over 1 for a slope of 2. We can do that a couple of times. And then we draw a straight line. Again, we are looking to see where does it cross the axis, the x-axis. There we go. And it looks like it crosses right there. And right there being negative 3. So the answer to solve this by graphing is that x equals negative 3. There are many times that using a graph to solve an equation is helpful. In this particular case, we have the Empire State Building run-up is a race in which athletes run up the building's 1,576 stairs. In 2003, Paul Crate set the record for the fastest time, running up at an average of about 165 stairs per minute. The function c equals 1,576 minus 165m represents the number of steps Crate had to take left to climb after m minutes. Find the 0 of the function and interpret it in the meaning of the context of the situation. So the 0 of the function, remember the zeros are the same as the x-intercepts, which are the same as the roots, which are the same as the solutions. So the 0 of the function is going to be right here at the x-axis, where the x-intercept is, right about there. And I would say that is probably about 9.5 or 9.5. So we have an x-intercept of 9.5, which means that is the 0 of the function. And the way we would interpret that is that since the x-axis represents time in minutes and the y-axis represents steps remaining, we can interpret that is that it took him 9.5 minutes to run up the Empire State Building, or in this case, 9.5 minutes means that he had no steps remaining because he was done, because it took him 9.5 minutes to run up all 1,576 stairs. Here's another one, very similar. Bethany spends $480 on supplies to start a dog walking service for which she plans to charge $23 per hour. The function y equals 23x minus 480 represents Bethany's profit after x hours of dog walking. So same question is that we're going to find the 0 of the function and interpret it in the meaning in the context of the problem. So the 0 of the function will be right here where it crosses the x-axis. And the x-axis is going by 2, so that would actually be a 0 of about 21. So x is going to be about 21 on this. That's the 0 of the function. And the way we would interpret that is that since the x-axis represents hours and the y-axis represents the amount of money that she is making, it's going to take 21 hours to get the money back for the supplies. She spent $480 on supplies, so she's not making any money until she earns $480 to get this, to account for the cost of the supplies. So that is how you would interpret the 0 on this function.